Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Healthy School Food Summit, brought to you by the Coalition for Healthy School Food and PlantPure. I'm your host, Ron Gambiza, along with my co-host, Amy Hamlin.
Hello, welcome.
In this session, Amy and I are both honored to have with us Robert Groff. Robert is the principal of PS 244, the Active Learning Elementary School, or TAILS, which is the first public non-charter vegetarian school in the United States. TAILS was founded in 2008 with the belief that if we teach students how to make healthy choices and expose them to a wide variety of food options, it can increase their academic success and help them to lead healthier lives. In 2012, with the support of the Coalition for Healthy School Food, TAILS made the transition to the vegetarian menu that we know today. Welcome, Bob.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
But I want to learn a little more about you and how you got involved, with the Coalition for Healthy School Food. How did you meet Amy?
So this is going back now, probably around 12 years, I think. I'm taking a guess, Amy. Amy and the Coalition have worked with the school I was previously at, a charter school in Harlem, and we met through them and the work that they were doing together. And so when we founded our school in 2008, it just made sense that this is a really natural partnership for us, being that our founding principles were on the understanding that if we teach kids how to make healthier choices, they will then grow academically more. So it was a great match for us, and I was happy to be able to meld them together with a partnership.
Now, tell me a little more about your school. Explain to me the PS 244 and what separates it, if you will, from just a typical school, because it seems like it's a little special.
Well, yeah, thank you. We like to think so. The biggest difference is that our founding principles were on that understanding that health education is really important. And the understanding that if we, as I said, we teach those kids these founding principles and that they can connect them to academic growth. So if we teach students that soda, for instance, has a lot of sugar in it and then causes a crash, we have to embed that in what we do and not serve soda during the day, work on them understanding families that they shouldn't have soda in the classroom because after lunchtime, the students crash and they can't pay attention to what's happening in the classroom. So that's kind of one of the fundamental beliefs, that we have to educate both the students and the parents to have them build that background, and it'll carry with them through a lifetime.
It's not just the menu. Bob is a very effective leader, and it takes a good leader to have a good school. But part of that leadership is the knowledge that food and nutrition and health truly is a life skill, and that is what the school is based on. Every school should be based on that because it addresses how well kids can pay attention, whether they're healthy, whether they're constipated, and it affects behavioral issues. It affects mood. So there's so many ways that it's impacting. So Bob knows that, and that's what makes him so progressive, and that's why his students are performing so well on tests, regardless of what we think of standardized tests.
Well, Bob, why don't we go ahead right into it then? Based on what Amy has said, because as you said, your focus for your school, it takes health into account more so than other schools out of the gate, so to speak. So, what was the program you implemented, and what were the results?
When we had the foundational principles of our building on the idea that health and nutrition is strongly connected to academic achievement. And in our first few years of our school, we took those building blocks to educate students that there was a lot of other health and food choices out there. So we were introducing things to them like hummus, for instance, like kale. And they were trying these new foods they'd never had before and finding new tastes and understanding that they could make these choices. And so after a few years, we got to a point where a third grader came and said, "Why are we drinking this chocolate milk? It has so much sugar in it." And when something like that happens, it's a spark for us. That's starting to show that it's coming from the students, that they're understanding what we're teaching them, and we can take a step forward. And we had parents starting to come to us and say, you know, my child's coming home and asking for broccoli. What's going on? And we had a kid who had some significant behavior problems. I went into a food tasting one day and he said, I love kale. And it was like, I didn't know what kale was until I was like 34. You know, for this 7-year-old to say it, or 8-year-old, that meant something to me. Like we're developing an understanding. And then we can talk about changing the food that they're having in school. Is that without the educational background, they wouldn't be ready to internalize it.
Now, you've had some pretty impressive stats from what I've seen. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you've seen some pretty good results, even just in attendance. Student attendance over 97% of the year. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. We can look back to where we were in 2012. And in 2012, which is when we went fully vegetarian, we were at about 95% attendance for the year. So when you look over the course of 5 years, you're already at 95%. Raising the attendance level another 2% is very significant. So what I always say is it's very difficult to make a direct correlation to any one thing, right? Most definitely it's related to the food that students eat. They're going to be healthier if they eat healthier food. They're going to be in school more often. That 2% raise is a big deal. We can relate that also to higher academic achievement just because they're physically here more. When we look at our state score results and look at our testing results, we can see that we've been a strong school for a long time. Excuse me. But we can see that our test scores and our parent interest and approval levels have remained really high over the course of the last 5 years. These are important. And we can also see that parents are very interested and involved. So, there's a lot of correlation between what we're teaching our students and those results. Certainly, menu and nutrition education is a big part of that.
And I also see there that as far as the state, you mentioned test scores, that you're in the top 1% of New York parent approval ratings?
We were in the top 1% of New York State test scores last year. And going back to like 2012, we were number 11 in New York State for our test scores. So again, that kind of, as Amy said, what we think about the test is one thing, but we know that our students are performing on it.
Now I'm curious about the parents.
Sure.
Especially with a school like yours, I wish I could have sent my kids. My kids are all out of college right now. So I do have grandchildren. So in thinking about what I'd like my grandchildren to go to the type of school, I'm curious as far as what parents say about your school. What are the type of questions you get, knowing that you have this vegetarian menu? Are there any particular questions you keep hearing over and over?
I don't know that there's one question in particular. But what I can say is that the conversation has changed, and I think that's really important. When we went vegetarian in 2012, there was a lot more questions than there are now. There was questions about what students could bring into school. There was questions about why we're making this choice. And there was more pushback from parents. Even then, it wasn't a lot, but it was more of a conversation. Now, 5 years later, families that come into our school, a lot of them already know that it's here, and some of them consciously made this choice for that reason. So I think that's powerful. The conversation has changed over the course of 5 years.
We know this for a fact in dealing with schools. Amy, I'm sure you've seen the same thing in the schools that you work with all over New York.
It's really true that a lot of parents recognize that the statistics for health are really very poor. 7 out of 10 adults are overweight or obese, and we want people to know when we repeat over and over again, it's not their fault. It's the food industry, it's food politics, it's media, it's our culture that everyone is exposed to, and these foods are purposely manufactured or grown or raised to be very addictive. And so most parents realize what a struggle it is, and they want better for their children. And so they recognize that what Bob and his staff are doing at PS244 is really powerful, because they do want better for their kids. And the other issue is, some naysayers will say you're pushing this on them. Well, not really, because the kids can bring in non-vegetarian items if they want, number one. And number two, they can also eat 2 meals at home a day plus snacks. So it's really saying that while you're here at school, we want you to eat healthy. While you're here at school, we're teaching about nutrition. We want to set the best example that we can. We want the example we're setting to be consistent with what we're teaching. And on that note, I want to say, some people watching this summit will be people who eat a completely plant-based diet or vegans, and they might wonder, why is this school vegetarian and not vegan? And I just want to address that for a minute. First of all, it's required by law that milk be offered, not that it be taken, but it be offered. And there's no requirement that meat and cheese be offered. However, it is necessary to have enough different options that are completely plant-based that we know are real winners with the kids. And working with such a large school district, they are working very hard on that. They're always testing new recipes. And so when they have enough of the vegan recipes to that are enjoyed by almost all kids, that kids take, a very high percentage of kids take those entrees, then they will more and more move the vegetarian menu towards a vegan menu, at least in relation to the food. Milk still has to be offered until an act of Congress changes that.
Got it. Now, Bob, what are the things you recommend to other organizations, other schools that would like to do what you did?
So I think my biggest recommendation would be, don't rush. Don't think about it now and then say in September, I'm going to do this. That's going to fail, truthfully. It's got to be a planned out, longer scenario of nutrition and health education for both students and parents together before you can have success. You got to work on buy-in from families, from the community. And we've had 5 years of family dinner nights at this point with the help of the coalition. And the family dinner night we just had, we had 250 people in our cafeteria. It was busting at the seams. It's a buy-in opportunity because the parents get to see what you're going to be offering the kids. And that's when they make decisions. The first family dinner night we had, I had a parent say to me, I send lunch with my child every day, but now that I know what you're offering, I'm never going to send lunch with her again. So they develop that understanding. And then once you see that the students have buy-in and understand, you move forward. Once the parents have that understanding, you move a step forward again. So it's a process that I would say should be planned out over a series of years before you get to that point of actually moving to a vegetarian menu. Rather.
Right, because of course you can always add vegetarian options, but what we do with those family dinner nights, which teachers and administrators are also welcome to come to and do come to, is we have hands-on learning activities or speakers so that the adults there and the kids can learn in a hands-on way or by listening to a speaker. And so over the years, the parents who are there are learning more and more, and the teachers and administrators are learning more and more as time goes on. We always have these interesting activities, and sometimes if it's a speaker, we'll send the kids off to do separate activities. sometimes the hands-on activities are for parents and children together, but it's always a lot of fun. And I have to say that family dinner night at your school, Bob, is definitely one of the most fun ones. The parents at your school are incredible, very involved, and you're doing a great job with them.
Thanks. They definitely enjoy it.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Bob. I know you have a busy schedule with kids there at school. And like I said, we're hoping that we can replicate much of what you've done across the nation, because you're one of the schools that we recognize as being in the forefront of health and really implementing health as part of course. Not it's one thing to add health and say, well, here's a school and we have a health module or we have some health best practices, but you've made it very much a core, and that's the unusual piece that in talking to a number of schools, I haven't seen a school really implement it really as part of its core principle. So looking forward to sharing that. Now, what website can people visit to learn more about your school and your program?
You can check out our school website at ps244q.org. And I am always, you can email the address that's on that site. I'm happy to respond to people. I'm excited to help those that reach out and that want to make a change. So, and people are always welcome to visit here as well. We've had visitors from all over New York City, some from outside of New York, and a lot of support from actually all across the world. So I look forward to talking to anybody who's interested.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time and really the offer. And I'm betting we will have some of our watchers out there, viewers, taking you up on that offer. So thank you very much. And for all of our attendees to the summit, thank you for being a part of it. Amy, thank you for being my co-host here.
Thank you, and we hope everyone knows they can also reach out to us. We have a lot of recipes and resources that we have available to also help make that transition.
And that's at healthyschoolfood.org. Again,
that's right.
Coalition for Healthy School Foods website is healthyschoolfood.org. And don't forget, PlantPureNation.com has recipes as well. But we have more information about the movement, about meals from PlantPure. So check out PlantPureNation.com. Again, thank you so much. And again, thank you, Bob, for being a part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.